that's kind of where I'm at on motorcycle information. You know, I am a constitutional sheriff, so if I got voted in, you might see some things and say, wow, this guy's kind of going in a different direction. Yeah, I'm also a fiscal conservative. There's things that's going on in the Sheriff's Department right now. I don't know if it really interests you, but what I want to do is to make sure that we're top-heavy. We are top-heavy, and we got deputies in these areas, out in the county areas that, you know, they're just told, hey, just kind of drive around because we don't have enough people, and then it's taking 45 minutes to get to some calls. We got too many chiefs on the department. We're going to have to cut some of those positions, and I will cut some of those positions because I don't owe anyone on this department. I owe the people of the county of San Bernardino to ensure that we have proper law enforcement. So what I'll do is I'll just start cutting some of the chief spots and funneling that money down to the deputy spots. We need more deputies. Another thing we need on this department is canines. They did away with the canine program. There's sometimes areas in the county where you've got deputies going into buildings that have people possibly with firearms, or there's a guy in a car that has a gun. I would rather send a dog, and I have a couple dogs. I love animals. I'd rather send a dog up there, hopefully disarm that guy instead of killing him. So there's so many things. A dog will equal 2.5 deputies. If you put him with a deputy, it's equal to 2.5 deputies. It's a money-saving thing, but it's also a life-saving thing. So there's a lot of things where I think outside the box. They're not doing it here. Rod Hoops has had like 4 years now to do these things. It's not happening. So I'm asking for your vote. I'm asking for your support. I've got business cards that's going to be coming around. My website's on there. Anything you guys can do to get the word out. I think that you're going to see some big changes. Have a constitutional sheriff instead of a sheriff that's been around for a while and just kind of playing politics. I'm not going to play politics, so I might be a one-term sheriff, but I think the things that you'll see. Yes.
Yes. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, I don't want to get in a debate with you at all because I like hearing what you're saying, and hopefully, you know, if you get voted into that position, you don't, backstep on any of it. I got a question. On those 3,900 CCW permits that were issued, now aren't they typically just issued right now to reserve deputies and law enforcement? I mean, how many average Joes are in that 3,900?
Raise your hand, Dave. I got a friend of mine that just got approved about 6 months ago. He's a business owner.
There are some business owners. It's very political. That's what your question is. Reserve deputies. There are people that have some political influence, and that's what's happening. And what I want to do is say, this is not my deal. This is, I don't care who gets them as long as they're getting them. So I want to separate the politics out of CCWs. So did I answer your question?
Yeah. I've got friends in other states like Washington and Arizona, and they have their CCWs. And since those states have enacted those policies, crime has gone.
Yes.
Because the guy out there who's ready to rob you doesn't know if you're holding or you're holding or you're not holding.
Right.
And I would like to see that happen in this county. I'm frustrated with this county. However, I live here. I'm stuck here, but I would love to go someplace else where I get a
I'd like to see open carry.
Yeah.
You know what, and I agree with open carry. Before they changed that law, I had an open carry group that I was putting money into that was up here in the high desert. It got overturned. You can carry like a rifle or something like that. But I actually believe in open carry where you can carry a loaded firearm and carry it outside. They changed that law, and I just think it's ridiculous. It makes me crazy to think about them taking the guns out of the citizens because the crooks are going to carry them any way you look at it. The 29 years I've had in law enforcement, not one time have I worked a crime with a CCW, with someone that's carrying a gun that had a CCW. I've never worked a crime where someone with a CCW has committed a crime. I've been to different places where someone with a CCW held someone at gunpoint until we got there because the other guy had a gun and he would have probably shot the guy, and it was really good. So I truly believe in citizens, carrying their, being able to carry a firearm. Yes, ma'am.
What about CCWs from other states?
Well, I think the laws have been, what's happening now is there's a lot of states that are honoring other state CCWs. Now, are you saying if someone comes into this state with a CCW, if we will honor that?
Right. I mean, like, we have a friend from Texas.
Right. Okay, and this is the way.
He's just wondering.
Well, it's a state law that says, you know, it's not honored, but if he was moving here and he had a CCW in another state, he'd be treated just like everyone else because it's going to be fast-tracked. It's not going to be like it is now where it takes a year if you want a CCW and then for them to tell you no. I mean, I've got 4 stories. When I ran last time, the first place I came to was here in Hesperia in 2010 when I ran in the last election, and I met 2 guys down, and I can't even remember, it's a Rotary Club or one of the clubs up here. 2 guys told me they applied for CCWs, and both of them were denied. Both of them were good guys, just business owners, and they were just kind of, they weren't politically active. And I told them that's ridiculous. I hear these stories all over the county, so I want to make sure that those things are taken out of the system. And if someone's here with a CCW, I would really have to relook at that and make sure that we're not, you know, violating state law. But I would, if they're moving here, it would just be like anyone else. You know, yeah, you've got a CCW. It probably wouldn't take much to update your background.
I don't want him to move here.
Oh.
3 months
But one thing I would be doing is I would be pushing other sheriffs and people and the lawmakers to change that law. I want to see the law change to where people will have Second Amendment rights. So I would hope that as long as we get people like you guys that are saying, hey, we do want to see this change, the only way you're going to do it is vote people like me in. If we continue, this is something. We continue doing the same thing over and over again, and the outcome is the same. That's called ignorance. Albert Einstein said that, and I truly believe that. In this county, we're doing the same thing. Okay, we vote a sheriff in. He decides my buddy's going to be sheriff. He appoints him. Then he runs for sheriff and gets sheriff. Then he decides I'm tired of being sheriff. I'm going to appoint my buddy, and then we're going to vote him in. We've got to break this cycle. We've got to break the cycle and get some new blood in, have some changes. But I think if you look at what's going on, we can make some good changes, especially when it comes to CCWs, it comes to motorcycle laws, it comes to roadblocks. You're just going to see a big change. And you're going to see a change in the way the deputies do business too, because one thing that Rod Hoops did say is that, well, you know what, we got budgetary problems, so that's going to affect the way that we enforce the law. Well, I disagree, because your budget and the way we enforce the law is not going to be, it's not going to be predicated on a budget. We're going to enforce the law, we're going to do our job, we're going to be out there. But if we have to cut certain spots that are making a lot of money and they're not out doing their job, then we're going to cut those spots and we're going to put them in a patrol. We might have to take people that are in certain jobs and put them out in patrol. They might not like it, but they're going to have to go out and actually do the job of, you know, taking reports. Yes, sir.
With the way all the cities and the townships up here in High Desert are, they've been downsizing their police force. How do you feel about that?
Well, it's a bad thing, because I've been reading how the budgets and everything they're cutting, but and I don't like it, because I think if each town has to figure out what do they want, what kind of services. But the thing is, we're going to have to think smarter as a sheriff's department and say, what can we do? We've got deputies working in the jails, and what we're going to have to do in those jails is really look at, I think we've got $150 million discretionary spending outside of the contract cities. So what we're going to have to do is look in the jails and say, okay, do we have too many deputies in the jails? And if that's
assholes too.
Okay. So if we've got too many deputies in the jail, we might have to start looking at ways to put some cameras in some of the areas of the jails where you've got a deputy just standing there. We can have cameras in some of the hallways. I looked at that before, and it's a bunch of numbers, but I can tell you right now, we can save a lot of money, take some of those deputies out of the jail. And if the contract cities are going to cut their services so much, we're still going to have to provide services no matter what. If they're cutting services, just like we do in the county areas, we have got to think smarter. We're going to have to patrol smarter, and we're just going to have to look at things different. We cannot continue doing things like this is 1960. Yes, sir.
How about self-protection?
Self-protection and
Has
CCWs?
to be a business owner?
No, he's saying challenge.
No, you should. I want to change. The state law says it's a may issue. I want to make it where I have a policy in my department that is a shall issue. You come in, you say, I don't care if you're a senior citizen, I don't care if you're 90 years old. If you
I gotta
come
make
in,
sure you can see, okay?
there you go. But no,
I need to get shot coming over to visit.
it's gonna be where you come in, you put your application in. I want a quick process. I don't want this year-long process of doing this background. The background should be pretty easy. Make sure you're not a convicted felon. The gentleman asked about the convicted felon deal 10 years ago. We need to look into that and see what we can do and see what if there's a reason that we need to be issuing that. And as long as you're not mentally ill, that's my criteria.
Oh, I've been crazy for 40 years.
Back to my first point.
Yes, ma'am.
Question, you don't get one.
I was going to make a comment too that a lot of times you'll hear in a city saying, oh, if we don't raise your taxes, then we can't afford the police officers, we can't afford the protection. But then if you go over to the county agenda, then you start seeing if it's not passed here, the budget gets passed over on the county side to provide it to the city, but they're going to try to get you first. The other thing is, when the county started making the budget cuts, who were the top two people who said that they were going to take a cut in their pay? It was Sheriff Hoops and it was our district attorney Ramos. And that's got to tell you something when these guys are making the big bucks like they are, and everybody else in the county has to take a pay cut. They have to, yeah, exactly. It's us. But they refuse to take that cut. So you need to keep that in mind.
That's the unfortunate part of our system.